What if you could think like a pro on the doubles court without using any apps, stats, or fancy tools? Most senior tennis players think strategy is only for the pros. But today, Will Boucek is here to show you that the same patterns the pros use work in league matches too. You'll learn how to spot simple habits, talk better with your partner, and make smarter decisions right away. If you want to win more doubles matches without changing your strokes, stay with us. Welcome to Insider's Playbook, the show for senior tennis players who are still out there competing in tournaments and chasing the next level in league play. I'm Mike Rogers, a senior player myself, and like many of you, I'm constantly looking for those small edges that lead to that elusive goal ball. There's a common misconception in the tennis world that data is only for the pros who have access to high-tech sensors, expensive video crews. But my guest today argues that you don't need a single piece of software to play like a data scientist on court. Will Boucek is a doubles strategy analyst who has specialized in video pattern and decision-making analysis since 2019. He's built a reputation for taking complex, tour-level statistics and stripping them down into pure, usable strategy for everyday players like us. Today, we're diving into how you can master data concepts without the data tools. We're going to learn how to outthink your opponent using pro-level logic. No spreadsheets or tracking systems required. Will, thanks for joining the playbook today.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Glad to be back.
So, what doubles patterns from the pro games translate best to senior players?
So almost all of them, actually. It's funny. A lot of people will I'll see this on Instagram and Facebook a lot. People, I'll analyze a lot of my videos. I analyze a pro level point, and I'm trying to teach a concept to a club level player. So I'll say maybe in this scenario, the server's partner shifted too much towards the alley and the return went right through the middle. And then a club level player or coach will comment and say, well, yeah, that works for the pros, but club level players don't have that strong of a serve. And my first thought, and I'm not able to reply to all of these, but my first thought is, well, guess what? The club level player doesn't have that strong of a return either. So it's all relative. So when you think about it that way, it kind of makes sense. And I have a lot of data on pros, pro level matches, ATP, WTA. I've looked at a lot of data on college doubles. I've looked at a lot of data. I've started to look at more data on 4-0 doubles and 3-5 doubles. And a lot of the data is very, very similar. It does not change that much. The most important things are the first 4 shots, which we talked about previously. The server's partner needs to touch the serve plus 1 ball. Generally, first serve points, the serve team is going to have about a 70% advantage. Second serve points, the return team actually has a slight advantage, except for the ATP Tour, but it's around 50% for everyone. So a lot of the club level patterns and data is the exact same as the pros.
Wow, okay. Well, that's good to know. It's just we're just not hitting it like them. That's all. So maybe our consistency is a little less. But
well, another way to think about this is like if you took a 4-0 level match and you put it on 1.5 or 2 times speed, you're going to see a lot of the same stuff. Or if you took a pro level match and put it at 50% speed, it's going to look very similar, because the things that the pros do differently is they hit the ball faster and they run faster.
So a 3-0, we'd have to put it at like 1.25 speed.
Yeah, maybe my numbers are off there. I haven't done the analytics or data translation for that, but yeah, you get the idea. I mean, the big things that are different is just everything happens at a lot faster pace. The other difference that I know we're not talking about on this call, but we can dive into it if you want. The other big difference I see with the pros is they communicate more
Yes.
and they are more strategic, but they're making a living, right? So I get not every club player is into strategy and they want to just go out and hit balls. They don't listen to my podcast. They're probably not listening to this. Um, but for the players who are into strategy or haven't ever tried it before, um, they could get a lot more out of their game if they do start to get into it and learn some of this stuff.
So if we're out there on the court playing, and we are into this and strategies and playing patterns and spotting patterns, how can we really tell whether this is a pattern? At what point should we know that this is a pattern that this team is using against us as opposed to just some random shots that they were fortunate to hit?
Yeah. So we're talking about kind of noticing opponents' tendencies, right? And I think that there's this is kind of a muscle that you have to train over time. Like you have to be able to study the opponents, notice where do they move, where do they like to hit their forehand, where do they like to hit their backhand, where do they like to hit each of their volleys, and kind of take away some of those strengths.
Hmm.
Um, so one kind of fun way to do this is actually to do it for somebody else's match and sit on the sideline, and you can get a pen and paper, or you can get an app. There's lots of apps out there. I think you worked on one previously, um, where you can start to kind of chart some basic data. So you can
Right.
chart, are they serving out wide or down the tee? Are they um, their forehand and backhand error rate is a big one. So that's one I would probably start with if I was scouting an opponent. And all you would do is for each line, write down the player. So player A, player B, and then did they have a forehand or backhand return? And
Hmm.
then did it go in or did they miss? And just track that over time and you can get an error rate. And that often will give you a weakness on their return game, and that'll give you a clue as to where to hit your serve. So there's a lot of different ways to do this, but um, I think that's a good place to start because it's so hard when you're on the court for the first time, getting into kind of studying opponents' tendencies to be able to do it really successfully. As you do it outside of the fence, you'll be able to get better at it once you're actually on the court.
So if I really was anxious on learning how to do this, I could even maybe watch pro matches and just start charting those, on
Yeah,
TV.
you could. Yeah, I mean, you can watching pro matches is a great way to learn, and you actually like absorb more than you realize. That's
Mm.
something that I've learned over the years. So I last year I went to Indian Wells. I was there for like 8 or 9 days, and this was so strange.
Nice.
Um, I'd barely played any tennis like in January and February, and then Indian Wells at the beginning of March. So I go to Indian Wells. I'm there for like 8 or 9 days, watching pro doubles all day, going to the practice courts, watching the players practice. And then I came back and played a practice set or practice match with some friends. And one of my friends I was playing against noticed for the first like set and a half, I didn't miss a single volley. And it wasn't because I had been practicing my volleys. I just had my brain had, like, just absorbed the volley technique from watching these pros all the time and the positioning and the footwork. And eventually I missed some volleys, and then I think the second time I came back, I actually was a little bit worse, but, um, when you watch these pros in person or on TV, you're going to absorb things that you don't even realize. But when you're watching on TV, it's a little bit easier to see kind of the patterns because you have that better angle. And you can use a lot of the same patterns. Notice their positioning, notice their movement. Um, one great way to do this is to actually watch a player for the entire point rather than the ball.
Right.
So a lot of people just follow the ball. Watch the players, what they're doing without the ball.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. I did that. I was working on footwork and went to a live match. It was a WTA match, and I watched Paula Badosa and just watched her feet the whole time. And it was like,
Yeah,
okay, that's what I'm doing
yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
besides the fact that she's, 40 years younger than me, but
She's in better shape than all of us and can do that with her feet for 30 minutes without getting exhausted.
this just popped in my mind. What about like, we're playing a match, you're my partner, and I say I want you to watch maybe this guy and I'll watch this guy, or so that we can kind of compare some notes and say, oh, this guy's missing this. This is what I see, or what do you see with this guy? Um,
Yeah.
how would that work?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, I like to so you wanna look for tendencies with their position and movement.
Okay.
So if I notice this guy stands really far away from the net when his partner's serving. So we might actually just be able to hit returns through the middle or even right at him and get the ball kind of down to his feet. We don't really need to use a lot of lob returns because he's not going to be able to finish volleys from that far away from the net. Or he's standing really close to the net. Why don't we use some lobs?
Hmm.
Or he starts back a little bit, but he rushes the net every time. So let's use some lobs. So that's a simple example of positioning and movement tendency that we can kind of take advantage of and create kind of a counter tactic for. Um, and then the other thing we want to notice is the direction that they hit each of their shots. So this guy's
Hmm.
backhand return goes cross court every time, and it looks like it's pretty high over the net and not that fast. So let's serve to his backhand and we'll call it poach. You can go get that ball because it's an easy ball to poach on.
Right.
His forehand return seems to go cross court most of the time. Every now and then he goes down the line, but it seems like he's missed 3 out of 4 of them. So why don't we try Australian formation and serve to his forehand and see if we can draw a bunch of errors?
Mm.
So look for the direction they like to hit their forehand and backhand return, as well as their volleys. If they're a very active net player, they might have a tendency to hit their backhand volley a certain direction every time. And as soon as you see them set up for that backhand volley, you can shift to that area of the court knowing it's going there. So one of the big things is to be able to kind of take away an opponent's strength. And if you see them kind of turning to that particular side and you know they like to hit it in a certain direction, just go there early and take that shot away from them.
That's great. So again, it's communication between you and your partner, not just when you're serving, saying like, "Hey, I'm going to serve here or there," but
Hmm.
really talking about what's going on throughout the game, even after every point, whether
Yeah, for
you're the
sure. I mean,
receiving team or the serving team.
yeah, I mean, communication is something that you have to practice. It's something that's underutilized at the club level, like I talked about earlier.
Hmm.
And you want to be really consistently communicating things you're noticing from the other side of the net. You want to notice strengths, weaknesses, tendencies, and patterns, like we just talked about. So, if you can communicate that with your partner, then we can come up with a game plan together, come up with tactics to kind of counteract some of the things that they're doing to win points and continue to put ourselves in situations to where they lose more points or they make more errors.
What should we be doing, say, post match? So that we can kind of train ourselves to look for things and understand what just happened better.
Yeah. So, post match is a really good time, and you want to do this. You know this as well as anybody. You want to do this immediately after the match if you can.
Mhm.
You don't really want to wait till like the next day because then you don't remember things properly. The mind kind of doesn't the memory doesn't work quite as well. Um, so you can do this with your partner ideally. If your partner's not as into this stuff, a lot of my partners aren't as big strategy nerds as I am, which is okay. You can do this on your own. So the biggest area that I like to focus on after the match is figuring out what areas I struggled with. So what types of games did we struggle with? Was it my serve, my partner's serve, player A's return or serve, or players B's serve, right? And then you can from there you can break it down to first serve, deuce court, ad court, and so on. So let's say we were struggling with my serve and it was on the ad side. The returner was just teeing off on my serves. I might think, okay, well, why was that? Well, they were ripping the ball cross court and pinning me deep. And I was just really struggling with that serve plus one shot. Well, what would be a good counter move for that next time? Well, since the return is landing so deep, maybe I can serve and volley and just hit it out of the air and take some time away from them. Or maybe we can call more poaches because if it's landing deep, it's probably going pretty high over the net. So
Right.
my partner can move and poach on that. So asking yourself what games you struggled with, why you struggled with those games, and then what could I have done differently and what should I do differently next time. I think those are kind of the biggest areas to focus on after the match to learn how to just continue to develop that strategic muscle and figure out what to continue to improve upon.
And probably just spend 5-10 minutes doing it.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be a long time. I mean, throughout the match, you can even be taking notes on changeovers as to like, which games you're struggling with, or if you want to write down um, each service game, each of the four players' service games. I held 4 out of 5. You held 5 out of 5. Player A held only 2 out of 5. Okay. What did we do well on returns in that one?
Mm.
So I think finding a way to track that and kind of pinpoint the specific scenario that you were struggling with can first enlighten you as to the area you need to focus on and work on, and then it's okay, can we make a strategic adjustment? Do I need to work on my technique or practice my forehand or backhand volley or practice this specific type of return? You can kind of diagnose it from there.
Cool. So I got to ask you this might be a personal question here, but because you're so involved with doubles, how often do you watch singles matches?
Not a lot. I did watch. So I watched Djokovic and Sinner. I can't watch 5 sets; it's too long.
Yeah.
Um, so I watched Djokovic and Sinner from. I think I picked it up at the start of the fourth set, maybe.
Oh,
So I
okay.
watched the fourth and fifth set. When I'm at a tournament, um, I would say like five, maybe 10% of my time is spent watching singles.
Okay.
It's very rare, and it's even then, it's usually when I'm like going to meet somebody that I like. I don't know, and they have to be watching a particular singles match, or they're watching a particular singles match. I'm gonna go meet with somebody. But yeah, it's very rare at tournaments. On TV, I will maybe a little bit more than that, but not much. Only when doubles is inaccessible, and I'm paying for all the subscriptions, so I'm trying to watch as much as I can.
Right, right. Well, they got to come out with doubles only TV, you know? They got pickleball TV, you got
Yeah, they do a good. Tennis Channel does a good job. The
yeah.
only issue right now with doubles streaming, well, access anyways, is ATP 250s. You cannot watch ATP 250s. You can't watch the doubles. So I don't know why that is. There's some TV rights thing. But anyways, and then the other issue is a lot of the cameras on the outside courts aren't very good. So
Right.
it can get kind of boring with no announcers and you're watching it through this like fishbowl thing. It's like, but
I was going to say with most of this, you don't get announcers on the doubles unless it's a,
no.
premium match or something. So,
Yeah, Australian Open had them mostly through from the quarters on, but yeah, at the smaller tournaments, it's pretty rare. There's not great coverage. The TV experience isn't great, unfortunately.
well, anything else that, going back to, our topic, anything else that you wanted to add before we
I think
end the
the
podcast?
biggest concept I can teach people, and this is something, we talked in our last conversation about Craig O'Shaughnessy. He's had a big influence on a lot of what I do in
Mm.
doubles because he kind of set the foundation on the singles side. Um, but he always tells his singles players, you're the second most important player on the court. And in doubles, I've kind of taken that and told people you're the fourth most important player on the court.
Yeah,
So
there you
it's a
go.
very difficult thing to do, but when we're out on the court, if we can get out of our own head and quit worrying about how we're playing or whether we're holding our serve and focusing on our opponents first, our
Hmm.
partner third, and then ourselves fourth, we're going
Hmm.
to play better actually and be more likely to win because we've got to really focus on getting our opponents to play poorly and
Hmm.
studying them like in all the ways we've just talked about, right? And then we can talk with our partner about creating tactics that get our strengths against their weaknesses.
Excellent advice. I've been trying to work on that on my singles game, but yeah, I definitely need to do that on doubles as well. Just it's because it's
It's
what's
not
going
easy.
on the other side of the court that matters more than what's going
Yeah.
on your side.
No, it's not easy. It's something I still struggle with sometimes. I mean, if I, miss 3 or 4 returns in a row, I'll get frustrated with myself, but I try to kind of get out of my own head and that actually ends up helping me make more returns if I'm able to do that. So, um, yeah, it's not easy, but it's a process and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, especially when you make some mistakes, but you want to blame it on the other guy. Uh, how did he make me do that? Anyway, I'm sure people would love to get in touch with you. What's the best way they can find what you're doing and see more about your work?
Yeah, the best way to keep up with everything is through my weekly newsletter. So you can go to thetennistribe.com to sign up for that. I've also got a strategy cheat sheet for 40 plus doubles that I will share with you and you can link to as well. The Doubles Only Tennis podcast is on all the major podcast players. And then my Instagram channel as well is a great place to watch video lessons. So if you prefer video, then you can check that out as well.
Fantastic. And we will have links to everything in the show notes. And Will, it was great hearing all the insights from you. I really appreciate you coming on the pod.
It was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. That wraps up our session with Will Boucek. And if there is one thing to take away, it's that you don't need a single piece of software to play like a data scientist on court. Here are the 3 biggest shifts you can make in your next match. First, trust the pro patterns. Remember that doubles data at the club level is remarkably similar to the pros. So if you watch a pro match at half speed, it looks just like a 4-0 match. The same strategies work, it's just the pace that's different. Second, the 4th player rule. To win more points, get out of your own head. Focus on your opponents first to spot their weaknesses. Then your partners next so you can play as a team, and yourself last. Third, identify tendencies early. Look for where your opponents stand and where they like to hit. If they always return cross court or struggle with deep balls, communicate that to your partner immediately so you can adjust your tactics together. By training your strategic muscle and doing a quick 5-minute post-match analysis of what went wrong, you'll start seeing the game in a whole new way. Well, I hope you enjoyed the Insider's Playbook, and be sure to check the show notes for Will's strategy cheat sheet and his newsletter to keep leveling up your game. And we'll see you next Tuesday when a new episode drops.